Hey guys, welcome to Tars37, and today I'm doing a different kind of video than I typically do. I'm actually kind of calling this video Marvel Legends The Concept Series. It has nothing to do with Hasbro or other toy companies that use that term when marketing for a movie. It's just a term I'm using to reference the fact that Hasbro has made some action figures that are based on concept art that ends up getting changed later in the movie. And I haven't really seen any videos like this. Maybe there are, and I just haven't paid that much attention. But basically, the idea is kind of like what I just said, looking at figures that have designs other than what they were supposed to be, or maybe they are the designs of what they originally were intended, but the movie or TV show, mostly these are just movies actually, but we have seen it in some of the other fields, just ended up changing them in the final product. And like I said, it's something I wanted to explore. I actually wanted to make this video last year, I just didn't get around to it. And yeah, let's start off with it. And I want to point out, just because an action figure is on this list doesn't mean they're a bad action figure. It just means they're slightly inaccurate to what they're supposed to be, but some of the ones on this list are actually some of my favorites in my collection. So yeah, looking at first at the earliest, this is Winter Soldier from Captain America the Winter Soldier. And this is pretty accurate to what he wore in the movie. The main difference is here, he's got a brown jacket on, and in the movie, the jacket was like blackish brown. Like, it had a little bit of brown in it, but it was definitely way more black than it was brown. And as you can see, we got the silver arm. The arm's a lot shinier in the MCU, too, by the way. That's not really like a big discussion, I just want to point that out. And that's mostly what I'm looking at here. A lot of these are different in color, but some of these are actually overall different. I want to point out, even though I'm only focusing on 7 in this video, there is a lot more than 7 that exist, and they're all not movie exclusive. But overall, this is a pretty great Winter Soldier figure. It came with an alternative head, and it came with a huge red rifle, which was really weird, but it was really cool. And they actually re-released that rifle with the Falcon and Winter Soldier 2-pack for Infinity War, and that actually is getting re-released, I think, this month or last month for the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. They repainted him like vibranium, but yeah, or vibranium-ish colors. But overall, this is a pretty cool figure. It's just slightly inaccurate, but it doesn't really bother me, and overall, I actually kind of like the brown better. I wish they had actually used this in the MCU. So moving on. So here we have Ant-Man from the Ant-Man movie. I was so happy when this came out. I remember the day I got it. I was really excited. I was really blessed to find it. It was kind of hard to find. Like, the Ant-Man movie wave wasn't that hard to find, but the actual Ant-Man figure of that wave from the movie was pretty hard to find. And I never had an Ant-Man action figure before, and Ant-Man was one of my favorite characters. They just never really made him because everyone kind of thought of him as a joke character. So I remember the day I found him, and I was very excited about that. And overall, this is pretty accurate to what Ant-Man had going on in the movie. There's just some areas where it's a little inaccurate. For starters, the limbs are orange, and he also has orange going through his suit. I kind of like the orange. It's unique in a way. There's also a lot of gunmetal gray on this guy, and his suit's not really textured, but it does look really nice. It's got the red and black. For the most part, the suit's pretty accurate to the movie, and then you have the dot back here. But the biggest big change was the fact that he has this open mouth, and at the time this kind of annoyed me, but overall, like, in time, I've actually come to like this, because, you know, in the comic books, Ant-Man had, like, this open mouth piece. He didn't really have, like, a closed-off mask, and in the MCU, they gave him the closed-off mask, and the closed-off mask, in my opinion, looks better, but at the same time, I think this is a really unique take on movie Ant-Man, and, I'm beginning to get where, you know, these concept figures, while I like them, did kind of annoy me a little bit. I've gotten where I kind of really like them because, you know, they're unique in a sense, and they represent what the movie was intending to go with. And I'm not gonna lie, I really like this kind of design for Ant-Man, and especially now that we've seen Hasbro remake what a lot of these were supposed to look like, it definitely sits well nice when you compare it to the actual movie version, which I will do at the end of this. Spider-Man went through various designs for the Captain America Civil War movie, and this was obviously one of the most prominent ones. Everybody was rushing to make a Spider-Man figure for this movie when the toys came out, and sadly they ended up kind of like rushing the gun, and we ended up not getting one that was totally accurate, but at the same time, I really like this Spider-Man, and he's got a lot of good things going for him. For starters, he has like that molded web onto the body, which looks amazing. He has butterfly joints, which is really cool. I don't think butterfly joints were the norm at the time. I think they were just kind of starting out, but I could be 100% wrong about that, so please do not quote me. I love the Spider-Man emblem here. The Spider-Man emblem is really great, and you know, it's really cool too, because there's a lot of people that like this costume. Like, I've seen people talk about it on Instagram when talking about old MCU concept art, so I think it's really cool, because, you know, this was definitely one of the best concept arts we ever got for MCU Spider-Man. And the fact that it exists in action figure form is pretty cool. And just like I was saying with Ant-Man, even though we have a corrected version now, which is obviously more accurate to the film and the one I kind of prefer more, it is cool that we have this version as well. And then moving down, you can also see the legs. It's got that molded detailing that I was talking about, and then on the back spider there. And this really is almost identical to what Tom Holland actually did end up wearing. The only major difference here is the fact that the emblems are a little bit different and the overall coloring for it. But to be honest, I actually really kind of like this design on the suit. So here we have Doctor Strange. Now this figure is actually pretty cool, and I'm going to be honest with you, the head sculpt here I actually feel is a pretty good likeness to Benedict Cumberbatch. I feel like for the first attempt that Hasbro ever did, I think they did a pretty good job. And I'd like to say too, the actor doesn't have one of those easy to make faces in action figure form, but I think Hasbro did a good job for what they were working with, and you can see he's got some gray in there, maybe a little too much gray, but overall I think it definitely looks like who it's supposed to. And the overall suit is 100, or not 100%, but it's pretty accurate to what we saw in the movie. The only like real inaccuracy here is the Cloak of Levitation, and it's just they ended up going for a different design. And it's kind of weird, but at the same time, like, we did get a more accurate version later, kind of what I was mentioning with the other characters, and that is pretty cool. But it's kind of interesting, too, to see, like, a different style for the Cloak of Levitation. As you can see, it has, like, this circle on it. I don't think the MCU cloak did, and if it was, I don't think it was this style. But you can see it has some nice texturing on the back of the cloak. And again, I'm not 100% sure if that was like present on the current version of it. I will show them off later at the end. But it's kind of unique to see, like, this is almost what they went for in the movies with the Cloak of Levitation. It almost kind of feels like a little piece of history looking at this thing. And yeah. And I will say too, like, they did make a basic figure for Infinity War Doctor Strange with the Cloak of Levitation, and that figure just can kind of sit on any action figure the way it's molded. And I feel this is a good Doctor Strange figure, so if you've never picked up the 80th anniversary one, all you'd have to do is, like, get the cloak from that, like, basic Doctor Strange, and it fits perfectly with this one. I've kind of, like, compared those two sometimes. So, here we have the homemade Spider-Man suit. This is legit one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man figures that Hasbro has ever made. It's one of my favorites in my collections, and I just really like it. It's blue and red. The homemade suit is beautiful. Like in Homecoming, I really feel this suit was pretty amazing. And yeah, it just looks really nice here. And you might be thinking that this is, not one that should be on this list. I kind of debate about it, and the only reason it is here is just because the colors are darker. In the movie, like, the red and blue are really bright, but on this action figure, they shaded them, and I don't mind it. I think it looks better, but at the same time, it isn't 100% accurate to the movie. The web shooters were also different. They had, like, red bands on them, and I will say it looks really bright here because I have my flash on it, but in real life, the colors are a little bit darker. You did get an alternative hood piece, though, so you could actually have the hood pulled down, and I think for most of the movie, if not all of the movie, he has the hood pulls down, so that's pretty cool. I think there was a Spider-Man emblem on the back, too, but yeah. So, like I said, this was definitely one of my all-time favorites. It's just slightly inaccurate, but I don't really mind it because I actually think the shading works better. And again, it's just interesting to see that early MCU concept in figure form. I think Cull Obsidian might be the most Jurassic figure they've ever made. Jurassic. Almost Jurassic Park there. But yeah, obviously one of the ones that strayed from what we got in the movie the most. I would definitely say that role belongs to Cull Obsidian. Definitely, he was a Bath that came out for Infinity War Wave 2, and I like him. I really think he was a pretty good Bath. He's massive. He's one of the biggest Baths they've ever made. I really like the face sculpt. The face is the closest he looks to in the actual movie, but it's nice and chunky, and it's got rocks in it, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually kind of prefer this design for Cull. Maybe it's just because it's the one that's on my shelf with my other MCU characters, so I'm kind of looking at it a lot, but, I actually really like this. It's big, it's bulky, it's huge. It makes him look more like a warrior. Like, I feel him in the suit, like the suit armor that he has, makes him look, I guess more of like a, I don't know how to describe it, but like this makes him look like he's actually kind of more ready for a fight, almost more like Savage in a way, more of like a, I guess to compare with the Hulk, how the Hulk looks like without his shirt and everything, he looks like Savage, like he's ready to fight, but the Hulk in the suit, kind of, I mean, he's still Hulk, but, he just doesn't look as tough, and I would definitely say that's, or not as tough, but just not as ready to fight, so I would say that's kind of similar here, but he does have some nice shading that goes all around him, and I do really like him. He's got this silver metallic here, and then he's got some silver arm parts on his arm here and the shoulder, which is pretty cool, and he did come with a hammer. It's just currently lost, and you have this silver metallic spine. And then you have some silver on the back. He's got these weird amount of silver on him, and then on his knee pads, and it kind of changes over to black over here. Just a lot of detailing on him, and he's a pretty massive action figure. To compare him real quickly with Ant-Man, because Ant-Man I think is a 6-inch one. You can just kind of see like Call is pretty big. Like he's bigger than Thanos, I believe. But I think that's how it's supposed to be in the movies too. And they are releasing an accurate version of Call Obsidian later this year. Now, this post is not aimed directly at Hawkeye. Mostly all of the Quantum Realm suits that Hasbro did, like the Spider-Man suit, you know, there was a lot going on, and obviously in the movie and out of the movie, and these were supposed to be all white, but they ended up being gray, and to be honest, I don't really mind it. Actually, the gray's kind of grown on me, but it is kind of interesting to see that. I wish they were able to do an all-white one, and I'm sure at some point they'll make an all-white series, probably for the 20th anniversary of the MCU, but either way, it is kind of interesting. And then here's the little Quantum Realm device, obviously much bigger, and the suit itself just looks so much different than what we got. I will say though, I feel this is the best Hawkeye head sculpt ever made. I really like it, and yeah. Here's a comparison of the two Spider-Mans. I believe they did reuse parts for these figures, and as you can see, they look pretty good together, to be honest. It's cool to see how they changed, actually. And just like Spider-Man, Ant-Man's release was pretty close. He did come with a helmeted head. I was just too lazy to put it on for this video. But as you can see, it changed a lot of the problems, and it also added texture to the mold, which I feel is pretty cool. So this is the new Doctor Strange, and this Doctor Strange 100% improved on the head of the original. Like, I feel this is the greatest likeness we've ever had to any male Marvel actor, but at the end of the day, I do feel that they were both pretty good, and I think the first one was good as like a test version, but this is definitely the superior. And just taking a look at the cloaks, you can obviously see, like, from the flower design, they were different, but just kind of turning them around here, kind of give you that look again. You can just see how much they actually really did change in a sense. Now, obviously, the newer one on the left being a little bit brighter, so... And then also with the Eye of Agamotto, they actually did paint it green, like the Time Stone. On the previous one, it was just painted gold, so I did like that detail. Very cool that they added that. And it's nice to see the change, like looking at the two of these, like just, you know, what was supposed to get and what we ended up getting. I actually really like that, the concept design there. So overall, how do I feel about these? Well, for a long time, it did kind of bother me that Hasbro kept making things that were inaccurate, but one, that's not really Hasbro's fault. I mean, it is the movie release window, but now I actually kind of really appreciate these because, you know, we ended up getting updated versions of almost all of these characters, if not all of them, and I feel like we will for the ones we haven't, and like I said, there's definitely a lot more than 7, but I just think they're kind of unique, and it's kind of like a little bit of history almost in a sense, you know. It's really cool to look at what Spider-Man could have looked like in the MCU, or what Ant-Man was supposed to look like, and obviously Call Obsidian is the most different out of all of them, but I just think it's a really unique design, and you know, I think where sometimes a lot of people like myself, you know, weren't too happy with these at the beginning, I think now, like compared to the more accurate ones, even though they eventually went back and made those, I think it's kind of cool, because it's just, you know, more unique. I don't think these are for everybody, but I think if you really like the movies, and you really like the history of the movies, you'll kind of appreciate these a little bit more, you know, you'll like the ones that are more accurate to the films, obviously, but it's just kind of unique in a sense, and every toy company has had this problem. Every company that's ever made toys has. It's just, you know, it comes out with like a movie or a TV show or a video game releasing and changing something for the final production. But for the most part, I actually think these are really cool, and I really like them. And like I said, I've come to appreciate them a lot more, especially compared to what the ones that they actually end up looking like in the movies, because it's just kind of unique and shows you a little bit of what we got in an alternate universe, I guess you could say. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please rate, like, and subscribe.